Right, first of all, thank you for joining me, especially all the way over there. I love it that I'm sat here in Wales.
Thank you.
And all of you are over there in a completely different continent. I think it's so great that we live in
I
an age
know,
when
I
we can
love
do
that.
this.
It is super, super cool.
The first thing I've got to do for people watching the video and for people that are going to listen to the audio show of this, if we could just go around the board and just say who you are and what role you play in the film. And of course, ladies first. So Mary, got to start with you.
Thank you. My name is Mary Madaline Roe, and I play Jessica Daniels in They Reach.
I am Sylas Dall, and I am the director and co-writer of They Reach.
And I am Bry Troyer. I am the producer and co-writer of They Reach and line producer.
And the only question I have prepared at the start of every interview, for these especially, is, well, Sylas and Bry, for those listening and those watching, what is They Reach about?
Want me to jump in?
Yeah, do you want the short?
Sure, I'll do it. Yeah, so They Reach is set in 1979, before the age of Zoom interviews and cell phones.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this 13-year-old science nerd played by the wonderful Mary Madaline, known as Jessica, and she accidentally unleashes a demon from a vintage reel-to-reel player, which we all know you should never come home with a vintage reel-to-reel player because it's probably got a demon in it. She recruits her two best friends to fight this beastly thing before it devours more souls in the small town of Clarkston. So that's basically what it's about.
Was the setting of it, to put it in 1979, was that one of the main reasons because of no cell phones? Because I know making films, especially horror films now, cell phones are the bane of them all. And you've got to write a reason into it that nobody's got a phone. Was that one of the main reasons for it being in 1979?
We 100%. Like that is I'm with you. I hate cell phone. There's such an easy out,
yeah.
Especially nowadays. You got, it's funny, we were just talking about this. It's like you got laptops, cell phones, iPads, like everything you can imagine at your fingertips. A call for help is not that difficult nowadays. So you have to put some heavy expositional dialogue in there if you want it out, or somehow weave it into the story, and then it becomes an issue. It's just so much easier, and to go back to the days when, and it's scarier too when in the 70s and 80s, and you can just, it just puts another challenge. It acts as another character, and it's a little bit more entertaining, to be honest. Like, I think, so that's definitely something we had in mind while writing it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was, I mean, Mary, you were 13, weren't you, when you made this?
Yeah, 12, and I think I turned 13.
Wow. I find it amazing because in 1979, I was 14. So I'm watching it thinking, I was sort of your age, but when this was 1979, what was it like as you walked onto set and you sort of stepped back into 1979? Could you?
It was definitely a different experience. Because there was a scene we filmed where we had walkie-talkies,
mm-hmm.
and I had no idea what to do with it because I had never used a walkie-talkie before.
Great.
And so they had to show me how to use it, and that was new. And then we had banana seat bikes, and I didn't know how to ride that either. So it was definitely a learning experience, but it was a lot of fun stepping into a different era.
Because I was looking at stuff, and in a few of these interviews, I love set design, I love set dressing and looking what's in the background. So, of course, the posters that were on the wall, the Robbie the Robot stuff that was in there. And I've got to thank you for, and this isn't giving any spoilers because obviously don't want to do any spoilers, but to see a potato light that I had as a kid, and I'd completely forgotten about them. It's something that had gone from my brain. And as soon as I saw it, I was like, yes, the potato light. I forgot about them. So I'm so glad
those lights have a lot of power.
Yeah, exactly. Did you recognize?
It's really great how in the film Jessica is so smart and like strong and intelligent, because normal girls back then, they wouldn't have had interest in making these huge elaborate potato lights.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like at the very end, there's an ultimate potato light, and it's so awesome and I just like very proud of my character.
There should be a They Reach Potato Light app, I think now, just for the new generation, that they can just press on it and then it comes up. I think that should be one that you should do. Did you recognize anything, Mary, when you walked onto set? Because I recognized so many things, with posters and the little toys. Was there stuff that you recognized or stuff that you thought, oh, what on earth is that?
Well, I recognized the typewriter. And one moment in the film, Cheddar, who's played by Eden Campbell, she plays with a Spock toy from Star Trek. So I noticed that because my dad had me watch Star Trek.
That's a good dad.
Yeah, definitely. And then I think I recognized some movie posters like Aliens. I noticed that because it was a classic. But other tand that, it was a new experience.
Yeah. The Brain That Wouldn't Die poster was a 2 thumbs up from me, I've got to admit. Sylas and Bry, what was the genesis of this story? How did it all come together?
You want to start that, Sylas? Or
Yeah, I can feed into that, and then Bry, you can jump in when you hop in the story there. It was from this festival. It was like, this was one of my first short, because I did a short concept of it as a short film, and I submitted it to this festival in Bleedingham, and it won some awards, and people seemed to react to it very positively. And I went with the same aesthetic of kind of like late 70s ish, and they're like, this is really cool, and this was like in 2015, I believe, 2015 or 16, between right there, and I was like, maybe I'll just write something. Maybe I'll just write a story that is, more towards a feature length. And so I wrote I remind you, I didn't go to school for this. So I just I just watch a lot of movies, and I'm just really big fan of movies. So I just wrote a massive one, single spaced, big old note pile of notes that, there's a story in there and there's characters.
Yeah.
And I gave it, and I met Bry. And when I remember when I met Bry, he was like, what is this? Like, cause I gave him this thick, like this big old packet of like, what is it, Bry? Like a handwritten, like story notes thing.
Yeah. It was all handwritten in a notebooks, single spaced. Yeah. It was crazy. He hired me as a consultant, story consultant. I've done that before for other people, but this was definitely an unorthodox way of creating a screenplay that I had never seen before. And so at first I thought, oh, I'm not so sure about this, but after reading it, I definitely saw the vitality, kind of hiding in all those handwritten notes
and the mess.
There's definitely enough for a full series. So we had to piece it out, figure out what the story was. And then Sylas invited me to do a page 1 rewrite of the film, and we had a lot of fun.
He was already giving me all these notes, and I'm like, man, let's just co-write this together, page 1 all the way through. And, you can teach me like, the correct character arcs that we need to kind of input in the script and make sure that everything's, I didn't know any terminology.
You already knew it. Sylas has this innate talent that was already there. So he just needed to punch up that skill.
I just didn't know the names. Yeah. Just, you know what I mean? Like, how to do it, but you don't know like the terms and the how to, and it's just kind of funny. He's like, no, you already did this here. And I'm like, oh, is that what it's called? Like, okay. It's really funny.
What was it like first day on set then, Sylas, when you got on and all the scripts together and the funding's there and you're there and you're behind the camera and the set's in front of you?
That was when we were first trying to figure out our crew, like how well is this crew going to mesh together in our film family? Super important.
Yeah.
It was also really exciting because I think everybody was like hopped up on coffee and and we're all like, oh man, this is early morning. Like it's kind of like misty and dewy. And I remember we're at this old farmhouse and it's kind of like early morning and I love being on set, and it just talking about it right now just makes me want to be on set again. It was exciting, Bry and I were little children, like prancing around, like dancing around together, because we were seeing our vision like come to life through these actors. And it was definitely a moment that like we'll never forget.
Yeah. And you had to bring a lot to life, Mary, didn't you? Because the stuff, again, no spoilers, the stuff that you go through quite a lot in this. That's for that's for sure. What was it like,
Definitely.
especially at such a young age, the emotions that you've got to portray in that, and the strange situations you find yourself in? What was that like for you, and what's it like now thinking back to it as you're that little bit older?
So what was it like being the lead in a horror film?
Yeah, and having to portray all these strong emotions that you had to do, when you were just, like you said, 12 going into 13.
It was a learning experience, just like stepping into the 70s, because this is my first feature film as the lead. I worked on the script with my LA acting coach, Kimberly Crandall. So I think once or twice every week, we would go through the entire script. We would break it down, like, what does my character want? What is my character feeling right now? Who's in my scene? What's in my relationship with my characters? And I think because of that, I was able to do the character justice because I broke it down and analyzed it. And it was a lot of fun. Some scenes were definitely more challenging than others, but on the most part, every day on set was just so much fun. And I loved it so much because we had such a great crew, and I felt like we were all one big family.
That's great. Have you got any one particular memory, one fun memory that springs to mind when you think back to the filming of it?
There was one day on set that was a whole lot of fun because it was a lot of action. There's one scene where the demon grabs my ankle. And I just get to fall really hard onto this foam mat. And it was super fun because I didn't have to hold back at all. And also later that day, Jessica is trying to get back into the house, or a house in the scene, and she's not supposed to. So a character, Alex Quinley, I think, he grabs Jessica and throws her over his shoulder because she ain't getting back in that house. And then I get to pound his back as hard as I can with my fists to be like, let me go. And then he throws me in his car, and I get to scream and pound my fists against the window. And it was just so much fun because I didn't have to hold back, and it was a lot of action. So I thought that was a lot of fun that day.
I'd love to be doing that now at 55. Never mind when I was 13. Yeah. Well, one of the things I really enjoyed about this was it's not what you see that's scary. There's stuff in it that's scary. Like you said, when you're grabbed, you see something that grabs, it's quick flashes. But there's a lot of scenes where it's left to your imagination. There's one scene particularly that springs to mind, and all you see is the back of somebody and they're chopping meat. And that's all you see, but it's within the context of it. And it's the sound design as well, the sound of when they're chopping it. So the mixture of your imagination, what's already been set up previously, and the sound design is like, oh, I'm getting actual goosebumps now thinking about that scene because it's, whoa, that's a little bit. What
like
was
the
it like?
Fear of something stronger than the fear of it itself.
It is. It's crazy, but it's good. I like being scared. Everybody should like being scared. But once you're putting the film together, when you're thinking of scenes like that, and again, with the budgetary restrictions that every film has got, and the effects, and what you can do with practical and what you can do with CG, that you've got that choice as well. Are you going to go practical? Are you going to go CG? What was it like putting this film together for, okay, we want to put some scares in there. We want to put some atmosphere in here as well. What decisions were made of what to put in and where to start creeping the audience out a little bit?
I think the team talked about quite extensively on trying to keep it practical as much as we can without it going too original Evil Dead, because like I love Evil Dead.
Oh, yeah.
But like at certain points, like it's like slapsticky and funny, but just they were under budget constraints like we were. But there's a lot of stuff that we took out that were like,
what's that?
That looks like a fake arm, like 100%. Like this is not going to pass. Like there's whole days after we shot, after we looked at what we shot, and we were like, no, that people are just going to be like, what the hell am I watching? Like, and so learning to adjust and like say, let's move the camera, let's go to a different angle, and let's move the camera over here, or let's dim the lights, and let's do, some camera tricks to sell it, and very little CGI. Bry and I were just like, we just, for one, it eats money, and then for two, and this is a extremely, extremely low budget film. And for two, it just, at some points, it was just easier to keep it in the shadows, you know, and I like that. I think Bry and I and the team like keeping like the mystery, like that's something I loved about, growing up. They all the classic films, they would keep things in the shadows. You wouldn't see, oh, there's the monster clearly. I don't like that. I like seeing like hints of it, or like what is, let's your imagination, like what's in there, what is it? And I think that you can't put a price on your imagination, but there's a pretty hefty price for CGI. So
yeah, it is, because everybody, of course, imagines, you give them a dark corner and they'll imagine their worst nightmare in that dark corner, won't they? So it'd be especially scary to them when they're doing it. And another thing that I loved about this was the locations, and there was the antique shop as well. I love shops like that. I'd spend hours in them. Bry, with locations and with you, Sylas, what was it like when you were doing all the location scouting before the filming actually started? Was there anywhere that you'd have liked to have filmed, but again, maybe budget stopped you from doing that?
Yes, Sylas and I did all the location scouting.
We did
almost all of it. Yeah. We did. There were locations. There was a location we really a couple of locations we wanted to shoot at that fell through. One was this nice Gothic church, this old Gothic church that was replaced with that antique store. So
that works
the store
well,
actually turned out to be, it turned out to be amazing.
It's kind of like that idea of like, never ending story when the boy bumps into this, like this bookstore or whatever. And it's like kind of like this antique creepy vibe. And you're like, oh, this is kind of scary. To younger kids, that is scary. Like it happened, like kind of like Gremlins, when he's surfing around before, he finds, the gremlin. But you know what I mean? Like it's I like that. I like that Bry and I just totally rewrote that just because of budget constraints.
Yeah.
Like, let's have them go in a thrift store.
Was there ever going to be anything different apart from the reel-to-reel tape?
Was a tape? Yeah.
There was. Anyway, we were thinking about having the demon pop out of the potato light. There may or may not be a potato light in this movie. Anyway, so that was next. We go with that storyline.
Took a couple. There was a music box.
It's a science. Oh yeah, there was a music box. It's a science experiment gone wrong. And then there was the music box. We had a music box. It was going to be a music box that it came out of. We just went with the reel. It was a nice look. The voice. It could connect the backflash episodes with the modern day episodes.
Yeah. Ultimately, it was like paying homage to Evil Dead and stuff like that. Like I was like, well, if we're going to go something else, let's just go to reel. Let's have that in there.
Why not? And some more old school stuff that's in it. I mean, Mary, you had, again, I don't want to give it too much away, but you had some prosthetic work with you. You had some practical makeup on you. That you had to work with, that evolved as the story carries on. And again, I love stuff like that. What was it like for you with working with prosthetic makeups? And of course, it's a horror film. There's going to be some blood in it. What was it like for you with that? Because that particular prosthetic makeup, I thought was really good and looked painful too.
It was a lot of fun. because we had some really talented people working on it. Hannah Krutzinger, she was our main makeup artist, and she did the silicone symbol on my hand. And I think one day Sylas had to do it because Hannah was out or something. And Sylas did it, and he just had so much fun just playing with it because it looks like real skin.
Yeah.
It was so exciting and a lot of fun, and it was way different than anything else I've ever done before.
Oh, yeah.
There's also one scene where I don't know how to say this without not. Jessica has something on her hand, and it's this kind of claw-like thing, and there's just a bunch of duct tape and silicone and paint and stuff, and it looks totally awesome. And just my experience, it was amazing working with prosthetics because it also made my imagination run wild, and it was just a lot of fun.
Have you kept any of them? Have you still got any of those?
It was a little hard to preserve them because by the end of the shoot, the symbol would either kind of be a little destroyed or pieces falling off. So like continually we would have to put extra glue or something on it.
Yeah.
But I wish I could have kept it. They were really cool.
Please tell me someone's still got the reel-to-reel tape.
I have everything. Yeah.
That's good.
My garage is like a prop, a storage, and it has all the props. It has all the, there was 2 reel-to-reels. One had more blood on it, didn't work. One had to work. Barely made it to the end of the shoot.
Wow.
Because there was so much blood splattered on that thing. At the end, we were having literally Jessica like Eminem, and I like people were trying to get it to work, and like we were actually having to do what the movie set out to do, is to like fix things and fix gadgets, and that's what we ended up having to do to this reel-to-reel towards the end of the filming. It was barely surviving.
And what was
we had 2 of them, and they both were quite abused.
Yeah.
I should imagine from what happens in the film, there's a lot of stuff that didn't quite survive the shoot as well, wasn't there?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, clothes, like props that, other different props that kind of just got broken or just smelt weird after all the blood dried. And we're like, all right, we got to throw this away.
You can tell this was a low budget movie.
Yeah.
We couldn't afford to buy multiple sets of wardrobe and
Just
things like that.
Totaled by the end.
Yeah.
That is such a challenge, but like you said earlier, though, you meet these challenges and you overcome them, and sometimes it leads you down a path that you wouldn't have normally gone down. That's a really creative path, and it elevates the film even more. It's strange, isn't it? But it's hard work, of course.
That is so true.
That's 100% true. Yeah, just another hurdle that we had to, or like if we ran into a brick wall, we would creatively try to go around it. And it would open up another door saying like, oh, well, now we have this set, or now we can write this character or do something else with this character. So a lot of them were like blessings in disguise, and it ended up working out for the better.
And what was it like?
Yeah, you have to be flexible.
Oh, yeah, I should imagine so. But when you're writing the film as well, and you've got all these characters and all the situations, then you're seeing that everything on set before you. It's got to be so rewarding when you get to this stage now. We're getting close to Grimmfest. It's all edited together. You've got people like myself that have watched it, have enjoyed watching it and loving talking to you about it and getting people ready to watch it at the festivals. What's this period like for everybody? And let's go around each of you. And again, ladies first. What's this stage like now when we get to this stage of the we're past post-production. We're into the press stage of it all.
Well, for me, it's really exciting because I get to talk about how much I love this film. And I've waited so long. Well, and also I look a lot different from me being 12, and I'm 15 now. So it's been a while, and I finally get to share with everybody and my friends and family especially how awesome I think this film is. And I'm really excited that we're finally getting distribution and interviews and everything, because then we can spread the word and hopefully other people can get messages that are in the film.
Yeah, of course. And it's a great thing to look back on when, it's when you get even older still and you go, that was me 12, 13. And, talk about home movies to look back on. Mine when I was 13 are completely different to this, thankfully.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, what about you, Sylas?
I was saying it's definitely a trip when you think back and what we're able to accomplish with not much. We were able to accomplish so much, and it's so fun to reflect on like just the time we had all together. Even though it was challenging on the days that we were on set, I'm pretty sure if you ask everybody that was involved with They Reach, they're gonna tell you that it was a great time and it's something that they love thinking about. So that's what I love about doing this stuff, like, and having interviews and reminiscing on how we made it and like getting to watch it again and going over what the fun, crazy, hectic challenges that we had to jump over, like to get to this path or to get to this point and the path that we had to take. Just puts a smile on my face. So
that's good. That's good to hear. What about you, Bry?
Yeah, They Reach was such an unorthodox film compared to some of the other films that I've worked on based on the budget. I mean, it was definitely an ultra low budget movie. We had to figure out very creative ways of handling things. And so it's so rewarding to see it appear at Grimmfest and get worldwide distribution and to see all the people embracing it, especially the young adults, because we're really targeting young adults, people that are middle school age up to early 20s. And it's really good it's really fun to hear their feedback on how this is working. And I'm just absorbing all of it. I think it's a lot of fun. And we've been able to use it kind of as a springboard into our next projects that we're doing. So, which we're working on right now. I'm loving it. I'm loving every minute of this.
That's good to hear that you've got future projects already lined up, especially the way that the world is at the moment and how difficult it is at the best of times to make a film. So that's good that you've got all that going on as well. And one thing that's gone through all of the interview shows is because I really love independent filmmaking and independent films and how a lot of the people that watch them unfairly judge them next to the multi-million-dollar big studio CGI films. When they're two completely different beasts, you can't say, well, that's not got that and that's got that, not got that. I think festivals like Grimmfest and Fright Fest that happened over here the last weekend are great showcases for the independent filmmaker and get them into front of what is admittedly a rabid and already loyal audience for that. But then I think one of the advantages of going digital now is it opens up to more people that maybe wouldn't have gone to the festival itself, but will go, I'll watch these at home. And hopefully build an audience up bigger for independent filmmakers like yourselves.
That's true. I hope so. Yeah,
right.
That is one interesting plus out of this video COVID-19 have to do everything by video age that we're living in. As people in a way where our exposure has grown because of that. So that's a plus. I'm not saying that COVID-19 is a plus. No, definitely is not.
Yeah. You've got to try and take as many pluses from the negatives as we can.
That's true. Yeah. That's true. Yeah.
Well, I know we're slowly running out of time. Well, actually, we're quickly running out of time. So before we finish, thank you, all of you, for giving me your time. I wish you all the best with They Reach. I'm going to watch it again when Grimmfest comes around. Even though I've already watched it, I'm going to watch them all again, all the ones that I've watched with the screeners, and enjoy the atmosphere, which I'm sure a lot of people listening to this will do. And even if you weren't thinking of it before, go and watch them all and support independent filmmakers. So good luck with it all. Good luck with the future projects. And thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you.